lovely people who are promoting reverse retts, which is something I should imagine barely any of you know anything about. By the end of this interview, you're definitely going to know an awful lot. I have with me Beth Johnson, who's come all the way up from London, or Surrey should I say. So, you know, she's pretty impressed with us. She knows we're going to do a good job of this. And we have got David Hawley. And he's going to describe something that's going to be happening next Sunday on the 18th, which is a cycle treasure hunt, which is something you don't see that much of nowadays, but he'll explain all about it. So I'm going to hand you over now to David so he can explain all about next Sunday.
Yes, thank you, Paddy. 2 years ago I did the cycle treasure hunt for Felixstowe for the 50th anniversary of the Felixstowe Council on Sports and Recreation, of which I'm Vice Chair. That was a success, so they asked me to do it again. So with a lot of effort this year we've decided to launch it once again. It takes place on Sunday the 18th of September. Check-in between 12 and 1 o'clock at Delwood Sports Ground. The treasure hunt is not a lycra-clad event, it's for families. During the course of the treasure hunt you'll be asked to find clues, and there's observational and collectible items on the way. And the end venue is a well-kept secret, but everybody will have an envelope that an emergency envelope for which they will lose 25 points. Deciding which charity to use, my wife has a cousin, and Beth is their daughter, who also has a daughter who is suffering from the Rett syndrome. So I decided to use that as this year's charity and to promote it in this part of the country where it's not so well known. So I hope as many people as possible will be able to turn up on the Sunday. Entry fee is £5 for individuals and £10 for families, but anybody who wants to donate more to the charity can do so on the day. It'll be a great fun event. There will be marshals, there is first aid cover, and everything is in place really, except the weather, for what we hope will be a wonderful event in the Felixstowe calendar.
Which I'm sure it's going to be. And as everybody knows out there, Felixstowe has its own climate, and September's normally pretty good, so it's not going to rain. Thank you very much, David, for that. I'm now going to talk to Beth, which is what all this is about. And Beth is going to start off explaining why she's involved with reverse retts and a little bit about her family. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, David, as well. So, I, as David mentioned, I have a daughter called Hannah, who was born in 2007, and she was born completely healthy and perfect, really, as any other little girl. And she was our first child, and as she grew up, for the first 18 months of her life, she seemed to be developing normally and be very healthy. And around 18 months old, we started to notice that there were a few things that weren't quite right with Hannah, such as she had a minor hand tremor. But they were very small things, we didn't think too much of it. But between 18 months and 2 years, those clues kind of started to develop further. And as we now know is typical of girls with Rett syndrome, she started to have anxiety, frustration. She actually pulled out a large section of her own hair, and she was crying for no reason, but most significantly she wasn't reaching milestones in the way that
not normal children do at that age.
Yeah. So although she did learn to walk, she didn't get to the running stage, or she didn't learn to kind of climb a tree or things like this. She had about 20 words probably at one point, but we also noticed that those words, she didn't get to that point where children start to put them together, and also some of the words disappeared. She was not able to say them. So when she was 2, we started to investigate, and we got some professionals involved. And on the whole, they all thought that she was globally delayed, and that she would catch up. But we pushed for some testing, and it took 9 months for those test results to come in, during which time those symptoms continued to develop. So a month before her 3rd birthday, we were told that she had Rett syndrome, which meant very little to us at the time.
No, exactly.
We hadn't heard of Rett syndrome.
No.
And so, as you do these days, we went home and Googled it and discovered that it was really, really a debilitating disorder, much worse than we could have imagined at that time. And so that's where our involvement with the charity comes in. It was obviously a really dark place to be for a long time.
I'm sure it must be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was devastating, really. We felt like we'd lost a child.
Yes.
Hannah was still there, but she was not the Hannah that we had had.
She was fading away into this different
She
person.
was, exactly. And all the expectations and hopes that we had had as parents really had to be put aside. All the things that we had thought would happen, we had to come to terms with the fact that they wouldn't happen. And we're still coming to terms with those things. It's
I'm sure you must be.
it's a long journey. And I still say that I do miss the little girl that used to live with us. She's still there, but she's trapped actually inside her own body.
Yes.
And I can't always quite get to the Hannah that I thought I had. But the charity gave us hope, because we discovered about a year after she'd been diagnosed, we were doing some research and discovered that the charity had been founded in the same year, actually, 2010. And we discovered that in 2007 there had been a reversal experiment which had shown that Rett syndrome was reversible in a mouse model.
Right.
Which obviously was groundbreaking for us. We had no idea that kind of thing was possible. And as we probed further, we realised that the charity Reverse Rett were working to fund research to speed treatments and the same cure for girls. And as parents, we felt that was something we needed to get involved with. We knew it would take a long time. We knew it was going to take it wouldn't be a quick fix.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's the only hope for Hannah's future. Without that, her future is pretty bleak. So we got involved.
Yeah. Now, I think I'm right in saying that Rett's normally are only sort of, I suppose, a tax's way of putting it as girls. It doesn't really go.
Yeah.
It is known,
That's
but
right.
it's a very, very, very rare thing.
That's right. It affects 1 in 10,000 girls, which sounds quite rare, but actually is not technically the definition of a rare
Because that's global.
condition.
I understand that's global, doesn't it?
That is
could
global.
be anywhere.
Yeah. And it's a completely random mutation that happens before birth, but symptoms do not appear until around 18 months. The reason that it predominantly affects girls, generally speaking, is that it affects the X chromosome. So it's effectively an inactive X. And girls have a healthy X, which counterbalances the unhealthy, and boys don't. For boys, it's devastating. Boys can have it, the mutation can occur, but if it occurs in boys, it's so devastating that they generally don't survive birth, or if they do, maybe a very short time after birth. So it's really profoundly devastating, which I think tells you a lot about what the girls are living with. If it's that profound.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So you now work for Reverse Rett.
I do.
And Beth did explain to me beforehand that she's always been involved, but now she's doing it full time. So, okay, so we've got Reverse Rett in this country. How did it come about?
It came about when a parent, a mum, much like me, whose girl is older, decided that this wasn't a good enough future for her daughter. And she was doing some research and trying to find out what on earth she could do. And she discovered the reversal experiment from 2007 and decided that this was something that we needed to pursue. The charity exists as Rett Syndrome Research Trust in America, and we are fundamentally the same charity but based in the UK. And since those beginnings, it's grown. We're still fundamentally quite small, but the impact that we're having is growing.
Fantastic.
And we are funding kind of the leading research in kind of 3 different areas. Our research is, there are 3 main distinctions. One is to replicate the reversal, so the ultimate goal really. The second is to use drugs to alleviate particular symptoms. So, for example, a lot of girls have breathing difficulties, Hannah included, and those difficulties can become life-threatening.
Yeah.
And they're also a big obstacle to daily life. We're increasingly finding with new technology that girls are living in an almost constant state of distress, which we didn't really understand before. Measuring physiological reactions and things, we can see that actually they are living in distress. And a lot of that is things like breathing. So if we can treat particular symptoms,
yes, of course,
we will improve quality of life.
Yes,
we
exactly.
may improve ability to learn. We may prolong life. So we fund the ultimate cure. We fund targeting particular symptoms and alleviating them, and then we also fund just science that is trying to understand the underlying causes and actually what the MECP2 protein does, and how it all works fundamentally, which would give us a better understanding for the other two.
Yeah.
So there's a distinction between what we fund, but it's groundbreaking and it's moving forward.
Fantastic. So, okay, you've got the research going on. Obviously, hopefully, I'm sure it's going to happen. We're going to come to that day when positive things are going to be done. Will it be in this country? Will it be in the States?
I don't think we can say that. A lot of research is happening in the States, but a lot is happening here as well.
Right, which is good.
An advantage that we really have in Rett syndrome, we have several advantages. One is that we know what causes it. It's a single gene disorder, which is a big advantage. We know what causes it. We've got a good genetic animal model. We've got the proof of reversibility, and we've got collaboration, which is very rare in science. Through the funding that we've done and through the work between America and here, we've got the Gene Therapy Consortium, which is 4 labs collaborating together and sharing their expertise and their specialities, which is very rare in scientists. They're generally quite competitive.
Oh, cool, goodness, definitely, yes.
And so what we've created is this forum where actually scientists are working together and sharing
which is brilliant.
Information,
which is really brilliant.
Which is undoubtedly going to speed things up.
Yeah.
So where it happens, I can't predict. I don't really mind.
No, exactly.
As long as it happens,
as long as it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can happen anywhere, and anyone can take the credit for it. It's not about the glory. It's about the future for these girls.
Yes.
Because when you know that something is changeable, then it's not really acceptable to live with it the way it is.
No, of course it isn't.
If someone said to me that there is literally no hope, you just got to give Hannah the best life she has today, then that would be my focus. But I know that it's a real tangible, it's not a pie in the sky, fantasy. It's a real tangible thing that can happen, that will happen. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel that as a parent, my responsibility is to speed that up as much as I can.
And of course, everything like anything else, it all costs money.
Of course it does. We're
so
non-government funded,
yes.
of course.
What is?
No,
we do.
We rely completely on other families. We are driven by families and friends of people who care about a little girl with Rett syndrome, and no matter what event is going on, no matter where, we can always trace it back to one little girl who's having an almighty impact on her community.
That's it, you see, isn't it? Which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And these girls, the impact that they have is astonishing. But what's crucial for us is people like David. So we're moving beyond, the immediate family. We did fundraising for 4 years as Hannah's parents, and as her grandparents got involved. But we need to move beyond that. We need whole communities to get involved.
Of course you do.
We also need people to know what Rett syndrome is and not,
which is obviously what all about
absolutely.
on here. So
the awareness is crucial as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it has actually got through, and I think you've covered absolutely everything there. I hope loads of people are going to turn up for the treasure hunt next year.
Yes, that'd be good.
Please come.
Follow us. Everything's going to be on Felixstowe TV, so you can just follow it through.
And there will be some way to donate if they do not turn up. Won't
Absolutely.
Exactly, which details will be given at the end of the programme. So we've got no problems with that.
Great.
Thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you
so
for having me.
much, David. That's really been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.